We're all related to the same thing that will go through quite smoothly. There is a sign-up sheet in the back for those that did not pre-register. I do not believe in squashing the voice of the people. So if you do have comments on a particular project you did not pre-sign up, feel free to do so in the hard copy on the desk right there. Joined here by our very capable planning staff and council. Board members Rachel Breiser and Martin Hall. I'm Chris Ellis, Chair of the City of Albany Planning Board. Pleasure to be with you in service of the city today. We have a few items on our consent agenda, or actually just one. We have a hearing agenda. We also have a meeting agenda that we'll look to get through tonight. 10 minutes for presentation from applicants. Those that are looking to speak from the floor, you have, was it 7 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes? It's 3 minutes, okay, yeah. It's 6 minutes if you are an elected that represents a wider swath of the community. So with that being said, let's do our consent agenda. This is an application for the extension of approval for development plan review number 0138. The address is 6985 Sherman Street, Legal Aid Society of Northeast New York. I see our friends are here. Unless you feel the need to talk, I don't think we really need you to. We're including this on the consent agenda for, unless there's objection on this one, we can all take a quick vote. All right, all in favor of the extension of the approval of the development plan review for Legal Aid Society of Northeast New York, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. I so moved.
Seconded.
One more time on the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consent unanimous, so.
Well, also just hello, I'm Nick Rangel, I'm the Executive Director at LASNY, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us and for taking this vote tonight.
Absolutely, thank you. We got the easiest part of the agenda.
All right, we'll see you later.
So we'll move now to our hearing agenda, public hearing agenda. First applicant is conditional use permit number 0081 for 151 J Street. Again, conditional use permit is under consideration tonight. Conversion of an existing dwelling townhouse containing 2 dwelling units to a dwelling townhouse containing 3 dwelling units. And we've been joined by Shawty Kennedy on our board. Welcome.
Thank
We
you.
just decided to get started.
I'm glad I was
Rock and roll.
rock and roll.
Floor is yours.
Yeah, hello. I guess I would start by asking which, if any, portions of this application, for the sake of expediency of the board's time, you'd like me to run through. There have been no major changes. All of the changes that we made from the last time that you heard this project were basically to answer questions from planning staff and clarification. So I'm happy to run through the whole thing from top to bottom, but that is entirely at the discretion of the board.
I don't have any questions, but what I always like to do is make sure that the staff doesn't have any additional questions. And if they do, they can go, and if there are any follow-ups from the board.
And if there's any comments from the public, we'd love to hear those as well and answer any questions that the public might have.
There are public comments.
Great.
On this one. So let's go through public comments first. All right. Felton McLaughlin. Felton going once, going twice. All right. Cole Yancey. Cole Yancey for questions on 151 J Street. All right. We have the comments from Felton in written format, and if Mr. Yancey wants to present his, we can. I guess we can go to staff comments at this point, unless there's an interjection from anybody on the board. All right.
So, per staff comments, we worked with the applicant, and addressed a lot of our questions and the board's questions from the first, appearance. Just to call a few things to the record, it's a type 2 action. Therefore, no seeker, determination or action is required. The application was referred to the county planning board, who has sent us a recommendation deferring to local, consideration. The off-street parking is not required here because the lot is less than 5,000 square feet. The chief planning official did approve an administrative adjustment of 2%. The lot is required to be, per the code, 1,150 square feet. The lot is actually 1,130 square feet, so the 2% administrative adjustment was made. The proposed dwelling unit occupies 100% of the building story. It is 100% above grade. And the trash storage will be outside of the public right of way. The applicant is working with our historic preservation planners for a certificate of appropriateness simultaneously.
All right, we've seen this before, so if there are no additional questions for the applicant, just one more call. Did Mr. Yancey or Mr. Cole, is there anybody here on the comment side? Seeing none, is there a motion from the board to approve 151J with conditions for conditional use permit?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Are there any additional and final questions from the board? The motion is to approve conditional use permit for 151 J Street with the following conditions. Refuse and recycle will be stored outside of the public right of way and not visible from the sidewalk. A certificate of appropriateness application shall be approved prior to the issuance of any building permit involving exterior work on the property. That is the motion. Call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, board. Oh, right, we have to do that one as a second action. My apologies.
All right. So next door, conditional use permit for 153 J Street. The adaptive reuse of the existing 2,516 square foot structure at the property right to a 6,233 square foot multi-unit dwelling with 3 dwelling units. We want to talk about this one.
Again, at the discretion of the board, nothing has substantially shifted in the application from the last time that you heard it. We did address the comments that were made by the board last time that we were here and from planning staff. And so again, happy to go through it at your discretion. And I'm assuming it's the same comments, but just in case, if there are comments from the public that are separate from 151 J Street from the last application, we'd love to hear those as well.
Are there any additional comments and feedback from the board? Do we have comments on this one as well? Cole Yancey. Calling on Cole Yancey. All right. Staff, anything further to add? Go ahead.
So just a couple things for record again, this is also a type 2 action, therefore no additional secret actions required. We also received a recommendation from the Albany County Planning Board deferring to local action. The applicant is working with our colleagues to get the certificate of appropriateness completed, and the trash storage area for the property also will be located outside the public right of way.
Excellent. One more call for Mr. Cole Yancey. Alrighty, is there a motion from the floor to approve the conditions of the conditional use permit for conditional use permit 0082 of, this is 153 J Street, with the following three conditions. Refuse and recycle will be stored outside of the public right of way and not visible from the sidewalk. The certificate of appropriateness application shall be provided prior to the issuance of the building permit for any exterior work on a property, and an agreement with the city, particular corporation council, for any encroachments into the public right of way shall be required prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to move forward with the conditional use permit with the aforementioned conditions. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you again, board.
All right. Next up on the agenda is conditional use permit and development plan review for 15 Trinity Place, Trinity Alliance of the Capital Region. There's construction of a 12,000 square foot two-story building, which will be a community center to expand the existing adjacent use. There will be additional major interior renovations of the Trinity Alliance facility located at 31 Trinity. Floor is yours.
The 31 should say 15, actually, just, it's a little typo I noticed today.
Oh, the address?
Oh,
Yeah, because 15 is the existing property. So, yeah, we applied for a conditional use permit. This was the lot where the Trinity Church used to be. As you know, it was demolished back in the early 2000s. We applied for the zoning change, so it is now MUNE zoned. And we plan to have a 12,000 square foot addition, 2 stories, with a glass connector that will connect it to the existing 15 Trinity Place building. So as you can see there, it's located in the south end. The brick building to the left is the original settlement house. The little annex piece in the middle is a 1980 addition, connecting the settlement house to the townhouse to the far right. I believe the settlement house was 1926, and then I think the townhouse predates that as well. So this is the existing site here. As you can see, 31 Trinity Place is currently just an empty lot. They have a community garden there right now. Our proposal is to, that's the site of the addition, and then we're going to be putting a green roof on the addition. And that's the proposed site plan. I know there were some comments about the curb cut that we were trying to propose in the front. This one shows it going into the public sidewalk. We are planning to pull that out of it, so we'll only go the depth of the brick pavers. And this is the basement floor plan. As you can see, the black outline is the proposed, and then the gray walls are the existing. This is the first floor plan. You can kind of see to the far left, that is the full extent of the addition. There were some changes to the building footprint. We do currently have in the hopper a area variance for the rear setback, which we will be attending tomorrow. So there was a slight change there with the building footprint, but overall this is what we are proposing. And the second floor. And the third floor is only part of the townhouse and that rebuilt annex. Do you want to speak to some of the services?
So in the Trinity Alliance, we offer, there's a health and wellness division, family neighborhood resource center, which provides services to the community. We have a food pantry there as well, which is available for those in need of food insecurity. Allows them the opportunity to come in and receive food. The hours of operation are 8:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we also have youth development that's on site. Provides opportunities for after-school care for children, as well as in the summer. They provide like a summer camp for the youth. And they also have Family Neighborhood Resource Center. Individuals can come in if they're looking for employment. They can the opportunity to search for employment opportunities. We do also have volunteers for tax preparation. We have that on site as well. We have dancing with the elders on site. Those who are elderly and need a little exercise, they have the opportunity to come free of charge and exercise. And it's available not only for seniors, but anyone who's interested in the program. So those are just a few of the programs that we have on site there.
So these are pretty much the same site plans and floor plans that you saw on the previous slides. It's just part of the template. So here we have some exterior elevations, and to the left there are some materials listed for the additions. We have some natural stone water table, some dark bronze, which will most likely be for the window finishes and some of the metal panels. And then we're going with a brick to kind of, blend in with the surrounding context of the neighborhood. This is located within a historic district. It's a contributing structure. It's not individually listed. And yeah, so anything new or reconstructed will be of these materials. Everything else that's existing will remain and just be, we'll be rehabilitating it and renovating. And then these are just some renderings of the building on the streetscape. And that will be the overall campus for Trinity Alliance. So yeah, our anticipated length of construction is about 26-month duration. This project will have to be phased. That's still in the works a little bit, but we're anticipating building the new addition first. That way, once it's complete, it provides swing space for programs to move into that building, and then we work on the rest of the existing structure. It's important that we don't completely shut down all the programs and services of Trinity Alliance during this construction. And then as you can see, there's a full list of project funding sources up there. Whether it's state or federal.
Where will you stage everything?
That's a good question. We're working with Siemens to publish an RFP to get contractors on board to start those discussions, because this is a critical site. It's not easy. So that's going to be a very important plan that we put in place for staging and, again, phasing of the construction altogether.
Do you have additional parking lot that you guys utilize that we're tentatively planning for that staging?
Can you go back? Do we have a site of that?
I don't know if we have the
No.
plan yet, but it was just been in discussions.
So that's on the corner of Trinity and Westerlo, potentially?
Trinity West.
Yeah. Is the empty lot that they're considering,
That's for contractor parking too? Or for just
potentially.
staging?
I think mostly staging.
Seems really tight.
Mm-hmm.
There's one grant that's not listed there, the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency grant, Community Resiliency. We were just awarded that in December, and those are funds that significantly enable us to complete the project. So, sorry.
You talking about the CREST grant?
No, it's a Community Resiliency grant through the Environmental Protection Agency. It's not listed on.
Oh, actually, it's on the bottom.
Oh.
It's the last one.
Oh, it is, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, oh. Yes, that's.
Were you complete with your?
Mhm.
Okay. I call you get out the gates quick on you.
I did. Sorry, man, that's okay. We're ready for it.
Absolutely. Any additional questions from the board? Excellent, excellent. Do we have any other comments? Anything from staff?
Yeah, as Alex had mentioned, the planning board saw this just as a zoning map amendment back in October. So that was approved by the Common Council in December from RC to MUNE. So that's why it's showing up differently on the map geo or the zoning map. Also, as Alex mentioned, it's located in the historic resource overlay, so that's separately getting approval from the Historic Resource Commission. The project does require a conditional use permit as a community-centered use, as it is exceeds 3,000 square feet. The project was referred to the Albany County Planning Board earlier this month, or early in January, technically February now. And the recommendation we received back was to refer to local consideration. The project is classified as unlisted, and as you saw on the last slide, for the funding sources, there are significant number of public funding sources, as well as the UDA and the HRC. So we recommend doing a coordinated review under seeker. So that's the recommended action for tonight, is to initiate a coordinated review. The project was referred for city departmental comment previously in October. Because of the rezoning, we were able to kind of get a jump on the backside. So we do have some of those kind of DGS and engineering comments underway. So we're kind of working on the back end to square those up. I think there will be some kind of redesign, as you mentioned, about the kind of inset curve. And then we're waiting to see some kind of outstanding sanitary sewer report, water engineering report, support. And as Shadi pointed out, the traffic is pretty tight, so we just needed to kind of finesse or figure out the maintenance inspection traffic plan, and other standard comments related to the design of the curve inset. So those will need to be satisfied as well. The applicant did submit one area variance for the rear yard setback, so that is under the DBA review for tomorrow, with no action due to the seeker. So planning board will need to take action for seeker prior to DBA taking any action for the actual area variance itself. And then there's some kind of additional USDO code compliance comments that are to be addressed with the second submittal of plans, which we expect later this month. I think most of those have been addressed. There is some proposed additional street trees. Again, it's pretty tight in the street amenity corridor between the sidewalk. You know, the existing sidewalk is not in the best shape right there, if or where it exists. It's very limited space. There is buffer proposed as required between the residential property, but there's just some additional clarification needed as well. So the recommended action was just to initiate seeker coordinated review. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I just have a few more questions.
Sure.
So I guess I'm confused about the parking spots. There's different iterations. So there's 26 off-street parking spaces, right, for the,
Required.
yeah,
So it's just going down through like
the credits?
I
see. Are you gonna, like, are these parking spots on the street dedicated, or is this a separate lot? I just wanted to
they're
double check.
going through the requirements. There aren't any being provided.
There's not anything provided. Okay.
So there's some on-street parking like credit,
Mhm.
and the being within the quarter mile of transit.
Mhm.
Um,
Are there any requirements of the applicant providing electrified street parking?
No, we don't have it in the code.
That's all.
Alrighty, are we ready to entertain a motion to declare for seeker? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to declare the planning board to act as the lead agency under the seeker coordinated review. No final questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We'll refer, the motion carry, and we'll come back to the two deferred items at a future meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. See you tomorrow. Well, some of you, yeah.
All right, next up is a conditional use permit number 0089 for 270 Bradford Street. This is for the relocation of proposed personal or business service in the area designated as neighborhood general to mixed use form-based midtown district regulated plan. No actions for today, but we will hear the case. Mr. Hirschberg.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. We're here today to represent the applicant for a conditional use permit on a property at 270 Bradford Street. The project doesn't include any exterior change to the building other than striping some parking. The only changes to the building will be the interior changes to make it useful for mercury screen printing, which is a business which is currently in the city of Albany. They would like to relocate, still staying in the city of Albany.
Can we hit that door, please? Thank you.
This building meets their needs. It's in an area where, because there's no work being done in the building at all, they normally wouldn't need any application on the planning board, other than the fact is that this list is listed as a conditional use. It's a retail operation, which also does the work interior of the building. They produce things that are normally done with screen printing. I'd have the applicant talk further about it, but I think you know pretty much what they're talking about. There's 14 employees, and we have additional parking outside. We have 21 parking spaces, which will more than meet the needs of any people coming to do business there. The business is currently at 12 Vetrano Lane in the city of Albany, and they're anxious to move here. Their lease is up, I think, is why they're moving there. And consequently, this is an ideal situation. I have some plans here, but the existing condition shows a survey. The next sheet shows the site plan. It looks miraculously just like the survey, because nothing else is being done with the building other than striping the pavement. I'd be prepared to answer any questions which the board may have. That's the floor plan showing the inside of the building. And then I do have some pictures. That's the building. And that's the parking spot. And this is viewing it from another angle. Like I said, there's no change to the building, no need to do any site work on the site at all other than stripe the pavement. If the board has any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions from the board?
No.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
No comments? Staff, any? Alright.
So the secret action is classified as unlisted, if no coordinated review is required. The application was referred to the county planning board. We did receive recommendation. They recommended the review of the New York State Office of Parks, Rec, and Historic Preservation for the potential impacts on archaeological and historic resources should be required. The application is in front of us because the personal or business service classification of the use that's coming in is only conditionally required under the Neighborhood General Regulating Plan for the mixed use MUFM zoning district. The application indicates that the proposed scope of work is solely interior with the exception of the parking lot improvements. The application states that there's 4 tons of refuse to be generated per month. While the application states that the material will be recycled to maximum extent available, no additional details have been provided. So we're looking for a little more information about that. Pursuant to our code, the places of public accommodation as defined under the Federal Americans with Disability Act should comply the requirements of the Act concerning the on-site circulation and access. The current building entrances and site driveway configuration may not comply. Surface parking lots is only permitted as an accessory use, therefore the 2 lots would be combined. The project exists currently on 2 lots. The parking is on 1 lot, somewhat on 1 lot, and the building with some parking is on another. The unutilized access to the consolidated parcel should be closed, and this should be noted or identified on the site plan. The applicant has submitted a site plan. We're looking for a little more information on the site plan to be noted, which includes the access dimensions to the parking area and the loading area, loading space dimensions, dimensions of the accessible parking space, access aisle, along with the details pertaining to building access, parking layout dimensions, identifying the snow storage area, existing and proposed landscaping or screening, identify any existing or any proposed landscaping and vegetative coverage, trash enclosure and screening details. There's a residential zoning district at the adjacent parcel. Existing or proposed lighting should be called out. The chain link fence currently would not be permitted in the zoning district. Existing chain link fence, we're just looking for viability of the existing fence, if it is, not viable.
All right, well, there's no action slated for today's meeting, but it seems simple enough. Look forward to our next engagement. Any further questions, anything else?
No, those changes can easily be made to the site plan. There's no showstopper there at all.
Absolutely.
So,
Look forward to it.
so we'll come back to the next meeting, and then is it possible to get an approval? I'm just worried because our lease is up and we need to move, so,
Lease is up.
in March.
So just to make it more clear, the board can make a motion to defer until the next meeting to give the applicant time to provide the documentation request, just so everyone's on the same understanding. But yeah, then you'd come back in March, presumably,
Right.
assuming you provide the board with what they're asking for, then they would make the actual decision. But today, it sounds like they do not have the information they need. to
Yep,
approve.
that's okay. I just need to know where we are. Okay? All right.
Hold on.
Thank you.
There's a motion. Is there a motion to defer?
So moved.
Second? Second. All right, it's been moved and properly seconded to defer the conditional use permit application till the March 2025 meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Next up is the conditional use permit, demolition review, development plan review for 130 Ontario Street. Reagan Development, Albany County Land Bank. Construction of a 4-story dwelling, multi-unit containing 76 dwelling units with combined 11,900 square feet of daycare and community center on the first floor, with 52 on-street parking spaces. Proposal includes demolition of the existing 1-story building and the consolidation of 3 existing lots in a portion of the city right of way. Our action for today is to consider seeker. The floor is yours.
Evening, everybody. My name is Jamie Easton. I'm with EP Land Services. I'm here tonight just to kind of go over the project and scope, what we're proposing, what's happening. There's multiple things going on. Obviously, you're aware that the project requires a conditional use permit for the uses in the building. That includes the multifamily aspect portion of it. It includes the daycare portion of it and the community hub space, all our conditional uses in there. The demolition review process will also need to be approved, and that really requires us to take down the existing 1-story building that's been vacant there for a long time. And then certainly we have to go through the site plan review process. I have received comments back, preliminary from planning on some of the outstanding items that we have, but just so that we kind of go through this, if we want to click back on that one slide real quick. So obviously some of you may know 130 Ontario Street is the main project site. There are 2 other parcels on West Street that basically contain a vacant parking lot. Those 3 parcels will be joined together and part of the city right away as a conglomerate parcel of land, so we don't have an auxiliary parking lot, just as you kind of mentioned earlier, that is not allowed in the zone. So that's why we're kind of making a one big parcel out of 3 parcels. Just sort of some reference points. I don't know if that laser beam won't show up on screen. Just to the south of us, southeast of us, is the Bradford apartment complex, this 2-story building. And then a little bit farther up the street is the Capitol Green apartment complex, just so that, you know, we're referencing the same area, the same location. If you want to move on to the next slide. So initial use permits, the area in green that you're looking at, that's community hub. That's where it'll be facing Ontario Street. Community hub space is used for residents on site, and used by the Albany Land Bank for different community activities they feel that are warranted within that space. The daycare portion is shown in red, or kind of pinkish color at the one end of the project site. That's all on the first floor. Then we have residential units there basically on the first floor and going to the second, third, and fourth floor residential units. Those will total 76 units. I forget the breakdown of the number of units, number twos, ones, 1, 2s, and 3 bedrooms, but they all are under New York State Housing Program. So all are basically going to be, I don't want to say rent controlled, but they'll be based on your average medium income. Basically, from talking to the developer, approximately 20% will be done at 80% AMI. The remaining 80% will be done at 60% AMI. So that's what the proposed project is. There's not a percentage of the units that are going to be under AMI. All the units on this project, very similar to the this developer also did 526 Central Ave, where all the units, all 72 units or 76 units are based on AMI. Site plan. So as we look at the site plan, you kind of see the building orientation where we're trying to really front Bradford and Ontario Street with the presence of this building. And we have the parking in the rear, which is really 52 parking spaces on site. There's a cul-de-sac that we've placed on the site that's designed greater than New York State Fire Code. And that allows access for people to come down the site, fire trucks, ambulances, emergency vehicles, or whatever, to come in and then go back out to Quail Street. And that also allows the 2 businesses, which is, if you're looking at that cul-de-sac, right to the bottom right, those are 2 auto body shop, repair shops. So they're gonna have traffic coming in and out. So we want that traffic circulation, plow trucks, garbage trucks, to keep going in and out. You can still access your way through the site for fire safety purposes, as shown for the parking lot from Ontario Street, Ontario Street to west or to the cul-de-sac through the parking lot. But by the configuration of it, it just basically deters traffic from bisecting the site. Obviously, you can see the Bradford apartment complex much easier to the right now, and their parking lot. The parking lot, we've now designed it so that we're pulling it away from the houses on the bottom of the page. And on Ontario Street, the existing parking lot right now butts right up to their homes with no screening, no protection or whatever. As we go through the landscaping plans, you'll see that there's screening, fencing, all those things proposed to kind of buffer the existing single-family residents from this project. For the conditional use permits, here's some of the general hours of operation. Daycare will run from 7 to 6, community hub from 8 to 10. You're looking at 8 to 10 employees, 5 to 6 employees at the community hub space, but I envision those being back and forth. There are some other similar uses nearby. They're all within a half mile, basically, of this site, existing daycare facilities, ranging in size from being at home to really being in a retail space. And really the biggest aspect of the conditional use permit for a daycare is really going to be the kids outside during daytime hours. And so when we go back to the site plan, eventually we can go through, I'll show you where we have the outside amenities for the kids being played, we're outside, so we're kind of keeping them away from the single family homes. And we don't expect any large deliveries. On the demolition side, pretty straightforward. Existing 1-story building built in 1962, gonna take it down. A lot of the bricks, certainly any recyclable metals within the building, they'll be pulled out and taken care of. The asphalt on the parking lots and concrete will basically be ground up, recycled for sub-base material within our project. And that's what we're going to use it for. Some of the stuff certainly will have to be shipped off-site. Not everything, based on the history of this building, can stay on site. So you can kind of see in red, that's where the building is. All that gray area is all the pavement that's around the project site. That's all the pavement, parking lot down below. And here's some existing photos of what the building looks like. Like I said, there's boards on the window. Nothing really fancy, nothing exciting. Under site plan review, again, we just have the center building in the mass with lots of asphalt around there. And if we go back to the proposed condition, you can see a lot more green space on this project than what's being out there. By doing these efficiencies, we have more green space, more parking, and meets the requirements. There's a outset, as you're looking at the brown building, the daycare is the farthest to your right. There's an independent spot for approximately about 2,300 square feet for daycare kids to be, say it nicely, they're going to be penned in. Then there's another area, as you see, there's a playground area to the left of that. That's for the tenant space. And then there's additional space, I'll say on the south side, that can also be used as recreational space. We're certainly above the code requirement for the number of units for recreational space between inside and outside. And we feel that this plan definitely has multiple aspects of things. The dumpster placement is always a concern for most planning boards. I've pushed it as far away from the residential homes and placed it closest to the commercial to mechanical shops. Odors will be reduced by placing it over in that general location and far as away as possible from the single family residential homes. Typically, that's what everybody wants to know about. Where's that dumpster? You want to go to the next slide? Here's some elevations and rendering views of what the 4-story building will look like. From the corner of Ontario, you can see that we are now really masking that corner. The building's not placed exactly on the corner because we're stepping back the 4-story portion of the building, but we are providing an entryway in a formal location for them to go into. And the building height will be 56 feet tall. There's all the sides, elevations. And I think and those are the first floor plan, again, the commercial spaces and the tenant spaces. And then the second, third, fourth floor plans are all the same. So I hope I did that in less than 10 minutes. I'm probably guessing you have some questions on this, but we'll just leave that information up.
Understood. Any questions from the board at this point?
Did the plants have washer dryer units in them?
I have to ask the architect if there's a common room or if they're in each individual unit. So I forget at 526 Central Ave whether there's a common one or in each individual room. Or in each space.
I can't tell you.
From looking at that plan, I don't see a space for them, to be honest with you.
Right.
So I believe it's a common area, but I can certainly ask that question for the architect.
And then so when you look at this street, there's only one entry in the commercial space for the daycare, but when you take it to the street, is there like a crosswalk there, or is there?
So the daycare entry actually has 2 points. One is.
Can you zoom in? It's directly across from.
The mechanical shop on Bradford. So there's one main entry there, but there's actually a rear entrance that faces also on the cul-de-sac. So it actually has a dual entry point. It has one on Bradford, one on the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
I envision if I'm dropping off my kid, I'm going to just go to the cul-de-sac.
But that's assuming you drive.
That's assuming you drive. If you're walking, obviously you have multiple points of entry. If you're coming from the south, you can walk in and enter that way. If you're coming certainly from along Bradford Street or Ontario, you can come down and cut through because the sidewalks are all connected throughout the project.
Well, the only thing I was thinking that's odd is that like if you come, that's Central on the right?
No,
That's Ontario.
Ontario is on your left,
What's on?
Quail is on your right.
Quail, so if you're coming,
Central's on the top,
so if
yes.
you're coming from Quail
Yep,
down and you make a right.
Yep.
You wanna be able to cross, but if you cross, Bradford, there's like a lot of cars to navigate, like, wouldn't it be great if there was a crosswalk, in line with, if you take the cul-de-sac line all the way up?
Mhm.
Just in terms of crossing, it would be great to put some street amenities, aside from making it driving centric.
Certainly, that area, we can look at, like, so for example, like the streetscape, if you look at the existing conditions, the sidewalk is placed right next to the curb line.
Yeah,
So I pulled that off so we could put street trees and
Yeah.
soften that building up.
but across the street.
Across the street, I think where you'd be walking into is into the backside of a mechanical shop that, obviously, that's actually one of the comments from, that's where it's gonna end up. And that, to me, that's probably not the best solution, that we have a crosswalk walking, literally to a mechanic shop where, trucks and cars are coming in and out of that location.
Right. And also, I mean, but it's true, many people might be driving, but that's a pretty vibrant community with kids.
Oh, yeah. A lot of
They might be
people
walking.
A lot of people are gonna walk. Yeah. So it's certainly a consideration I can look at, but a mid-block crossing, typically we want to kind of not do if possible. And based upon the use next door, is probably not the best situation.
It might not be safe just by how many, but it just seems that because you've strategized your entries on the pins, like if someone wants to
Yeah.
cross, sometimes they don't go all the way to the end, right?
Yes.
Just want to provide some boundaries.
Any additional questions from the board?
Oh, so you have so many nice parking spots. What are you gonna do for electrified parking?
We actually have 4 EV charging stations and 1 handicap charging station.
On what level?
Typically it'd be a level 2 charger. It's not a level 3.
That's bigger.
It's much more expensive.
And then in the plans, was there a dedicated space for bikes? I was just about to ask. I didn't see it.
For bikes, yes, there's multiple locations. One at, I'll call it the corner of Ontario and Bradford. We have bike racks up there. We have bike racks just south of the community hub space as its entranceway coming in off of Ontario. We have bike rack next to the playground in the center, and then I have another bike rack that's actually towards the front of, on Bradford, near the daycare center.
And what about for residents inside?
For residents, there's a space inside also. So we have to have some inside, some outside.
Yeah.
But we have lots of places to locate your bicycle and at different locations. So.
And have you already determined the roof material? Was that discussed?
No, I can certainly ask the architect that question, but I would envision an EMP roof, is probably my guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's certainly one thing which will be a little bit different than from our public meeting that we held in June with the residents around and talking to people at 526 Central, they actually wanted, because the trees aren't fully mature, it's gonna take a while, they actually wanted a shade aspect of that. So so you will see that in this project that's near the cul-de-sac on the back side, there is a 10 by 10 gazebo with a picnic table underneath it so that people can use outside and get out from under and stay, in the shade. So they're not
in the heat.
They're not in the heat.
Okay.
That was one thing that was a comment that from prior project to this project that I incorporated. That many of them spoke about the site. They loved it, X, Y, and Z, but that was one thing they wish they had, was a little bit more coverage.
And the exit points in the building provide like a canopy for code and everything.
That's correct, yes. But you can see from the landscaping plan, all the single-family residential homes to the south and to the west, or which is the bottom of the page and to your left. We have a fence, new fencing going up 6 foot high, aluminum fencing. Then we're gonna screen that fencing with a hedgerow. So parking and everything else is just completely blocked from them. Currently, right now, there's dilapidated chain link fence there, and you can kind of see the parking lot, so.
Cool.
No problem.
All right. Yes, I did see the written comments from the Walk-in Spring Company.
Yes.
That was the piece on their ability to maneuver the vehicles. They said they work on a lot of vehicles. So board members check that out.
Okay.
By the time we get to the next meeting.
So for us, just remember parking demand really for this project is, I think it was like 28, I think I calculated, somewhere around there. We're providing 52 on site. So there's, even though there's street parking, if the board so decides to add in no parking lane in front of those places, there's plenty of parking on site. Typical of 526 Central Ave, we had a parking ratio 1-to-1 for the units. And certainly if you go there, the 1-to-1 requirement is not being met. It's certainly underutilized, that parking lot. So just to give that forward as a reference point. We wanted to provide some parking on site for employees, for tenants and things like that. We felt that between that and the 23 parallel parking stalls along the existing curb lines, what you could do was plenty. It'd be put you in the 80 range. But losing a couple is not going to be that big of a detriment for the project.
Absolutely. Staff?
So I think Jamie covered this slide pretty thoroughly. Obviously, demolition review is required, as well as a lot modification for those 3 existing parcels, 1 Ontario, 154, and 134 West Street, as well as the city right-of-way, and then 3 separate conditions permits are required. So when the board eventually gets to that point, there will be an annoying number of votes required for each of those 3 individual conditional use permits and the demolition review permit and the CPR. So just as a heads up when we get to that point eventually. The project was referred for departmental comment for reviews. We haven't gotten those back yet. And will be referred to Albany County Planning Board for their February meeting. We did get a phase 1 environmental site assessment with the project commission, as well as a part 1 EAF. And from all that, as well as the project scope, we classify it as an unlisted action under seeker, given the public funding from New York State Home Community Renewal, HCR. We recommend that initiate coordinated review just to kind of give them the part 2 and 3 when you mentioned make that determination. So that would be the recommended action. We can go into the UFDO a little bit more. So we've internally seen this through a few different iterations as staff, as well as just departmental review on the technical review committee. So there's been quite a few different iterations. So as far as USDO code compliance, it's in pretty good shape. There's just kind of a few revisions here and there. But as Jamie mentioned, the buffer landscape has been met, parking has been met, generally meets the new building standards for the form-based district, which is a little bit more frustrating to work with. It's in the same neighborhood general district as the previous 270 Bradford Street that we were just looking at. So just kind of a few minor tweaks here and there from the planning comments currently. As I mentioned, we're still waiting for all of the other departmental comments, so we'll see where we stand from there. So we're in a good standpoint from street trees, buffer landscape. Exterior lighting plan was provided. For any additional signage, building sign permits will need to be provided. There's certainly possible that there will be changes to the current cul-de-sac design, maybe some slight tweaks here or there, depending on the departmental comments we get back from traffic engineering or DGS. It was partially designed in kind of conversation with someone from city engineering. So hopefully not too many design tweaks, but because it is essentially dead-ending an existing city right-of-way, obviously there will need to be formal processes involved with the common council, so that is also separately ongoing. And I think that's yeah. So the recommended action is to declare planning board to act as the agency under seeker and initiate the coordinated review just with the New York State HCR for the funding source.
All right. Any additional questions from the board? Hearing none, is there a motion to declare the planning board to act as lead agency under secret for coordinated review?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to declare the planning board to act as the lead agency under secret for coordinated review. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
That concludes our public hearing agenda, so I thank you all. Hold on 1 second, Mr. Hirschberg. We got, want to propose a subtle change to the agenda to allow for the 596 Manning Boulevard project to go first, to accommodate one of the speakers for the on that project. So the folks from, I see some of the folks from KIP here, they want to come forward to present on that without objection from members of the board. Okay. All right, so we'll do a development plan review for 596 Manning Boulevard from KIP Capital Region, looking for the expansion of the surface parking lot containing 35 new off-street parking spaces and circulation improvements located at the existing KIP Middle School, along with the connection to the Tivoli Preserve.
Sure, yes, good evening. Just as Chairman mentioned, it's 596 Manning Boulevard, KIP Capital Region. Currently, it's an MUNE mixed-use neighborhood edge. The requirements for this project will be the development plan review and also a waiver request for off-street parking. And as the Chairman mentioned, it's the expansion of a surface parking lot to accommodate not only additional parking for KIP School, but also provide spaces for the new improvements for the Tivoli Preserve project for the city. Here's the project location. You can see on the left-hand side is just an image from North Manning looking into the property where there used to be a single-family residence on the property. Looking to the right, you can see the MUNE zone and the existing middle school there, kind of an L-shaped building with the existing parking lot in the rear, and then this will be to the west of the current lot. Existing conditions, north here is to the left of the page. You can see North Manning running up and down on the sheet of paper. The road going into the Livingston apartments there on the right-hand side, and then the driveway that currently goes to the rear of the school where the buses drop off the kids to the rear door. This parcel here is shown in red. It's about 0.72 acres. And I will give you a quick, and I did mention this on, I think it's in a couple slides. But back in 2021, the city of Albany entered into a MOU with KIP School for this piece of property. It's owned by New York State. KIP is working with New York State for that transfer. As part of that transfer agreement, for the additional parking for the KIP school is also to incorporate Tivoli Preserve parking to connect to Tivoli Preserve that's there. And also the city is working on an ongoing Tivoli Preserve improvement project, which we have met several times to incorporate our project into their project. So here on the left-hand side of the page is a general overview. You can see the parking lot there with the striping. We have proposing 35 new parking spaces. We do have 10 banked spaces. And also we are dedicating 10 spaces there on the right-hand side to the Tivoli Preserve. All the line work that you see there to the right, kind of a tear drop, that is from the city of Albany as part of their Tivoli Preserve project. So we were able to take that line work and show how that is being incorporated into our piece of property. We just recently met with them on January 10th. So these improvements that you see are slightly different than the original submission due to that meeting and some tweaks that were discussed at that time. So you can see the two connecting legs, one going into that teardrop area, and then also one that comes up and around into that widened trail. To the bottom of the page, from our parking lot, we will be handling all stormwater management practices on our site. On the right-hand side, it shows the proposed circulation. Right now, there's a lot of congestion using the existing driveway for both buses and for parent drop-off. So the red is showing that the bus route will continue to enter the driveway. That will be widened, and the radius will be widened, so it'll be easier for buses to enter the parcel if there's a bus leaving. Right now, there's kind of a bottleneck in that area, so we're going to widen that up so two buses can pass at the same time. Come to the back of the building, drop off the kids at the main door, which is in the rear of the building, and then come back out through the loop and then out that driveway. If a bus has to, the building expansion lot could accommodate a bus to come down and out that driveway as well. That's only for unique circumstances. For the most part, the buses will utilize that existing parking lot. The blue is for the parent drop-off and pickup. They will come in, stop where that car is shown, will cross the street, and then go along the existing sidewalk to get back to that rear door. And then parents will be able to make that loop into through the building part expansion and then back out to North Manning. This is to hopefully to alleviate a lot of the congestion that happens in front of the school on North Manning as it does today. Just going back real quick on the left-hand side, you'll see up on the top is a timber guide rail. That's going to be the delineation that we show in our parking lot to kind of separate the 10 Tivoli Preserve spaces from the rest of the school parking. And there'll be signage on there to say reserved for Tivoli Preserve. I'll go to the next slide. Like I mentioned, back in 2021 was the MOU. It was used between KIP and the city to increase traffic safety for students, faculty, and parents entering the middle school, and also to increase access to the Tivoli Preserve. As I mentioned, we have met with the city on several occasions, the last meeting being on the 10th of January, to tweak the plans to make sure that their improvements and our improvements meld well together. And this will be a privately funded project by KIP. The ordinance for the waiver, section 375-405, parking and loading. I can go through that on the next slide. So the minimum is one space per 750 square feet, and the maximum is 625. That gives you a range of 57 minimum and 69 maximum. We are looking for 95 parking spaces along with the 10 banked future spaces if that ever comes about. And then also on top of that is we included the 10 parking spaces with an ADA stall for the Tivoli Preserve improvements. In here, we'll just go through each of the 5 criteria for the waiver review. Character of the neighborhood. The request does not change the character of the neighborhood as it is located adjacent to an existing parking lot. Adding the additional driveway parking spaces will improve the layout and help streamline the traffic, reduce delays, and enhance safety for the students, parents, and staff on the school premises. Also, this will give them the flexibility for when they hold larger events at the school, making it more convenient for the parents to come in and park and keep the parking onto KIPP property without spilling onto city streets. Alternatives considered. Space constraints. The current site layout and available space does not allow for efficient reconfiguration of existing traffic patterns for both bus and for parent drop-off. The demand for parking and improved circulation has outpaced the capacity of these facilities. Without the expansion, these cannot be met, resulting in continued congestion and inefficiency at the middle school. Another one is safety concerns. So, yep. Just optimizing the layout without expanding does not sufficiently address the safety risks posed for current traffic flow and parking limitations. Event needs, school events, and community access, like visiting Tivoli Preserve, require a more substantial parking solution than what's currently available. Sustainability. New expansion is set to create a better experience for KIPP with a more direct drop-off and pickup route, less street congestion, and plenty of parking for school events, and providing access to the Tivoli Preserve. Impact on the environment. The proposed parking will not have an adverse impact on the effects on the neighborhood. One thing that I did mention, stormwater. We will be having post-construction stormwater management on site to handle the stormwater due to the parking lot expansion. Self-created, improving the school traffic circulation, expanding the parking lot.
How many more slides do you have?
This is the last one, I believe.
All right.
Just to quickly summarize, KIPP often, if you've been out there, often has congestion issues along North Manning. So this is going to help with getting traffic off of North Manning and better circulation in and out of the facility. Same thing with event parking, also to keep that off of city streets. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll move to public comment at this point, and then we'll come back to the board and staff. You're John O'Grady?
I'm John O'Grady.
Good. Please state your name and address for the record.
John O'Grady from 817 Livingston Avenue in Albany. I'm the board president for a not-for-profit, it's been around about 10 years, called Friends of Tivoli Lake Preserve, which you've heard a little bit about so far. We have been working with the city for quite some time, actually since we started, to kind of consult, help out with ideas about improvement. The city is finally getting to improving this preserve. It's been around about 120 years as a recreation area, and it's been in the last 10 or 15 that some improvements have been made. When our exec director and I met with Kip, and it was the state parks and several people from the planning department, this was about 2 years ago, the original, well, I call it the original meeting. That our impression at the time was that a lot more green space would be available even after Kip got enough parking spaces. You saw the red area there, which is now all green. It's brown in the picture, but it's green in the spring anyway. And that's all lost because of this new expansion. We benefit from this expansion, Friends of Tivoli, because our idea is to try to encourage people to come to the preserve. A lot of people don't know about it. A lot of people are scared to go to this natural area. So we want to, increase the profile. Excuse me. So these 10 parking spaces are really great, and the access to the trailhead. I saw the current proposal that's been updated only today. It's been really recent that it's updated. So I'm not going to comment on specific things that we think as a volunteer group, should be changed. But I believe that there's still a lot of room for adding green space, even when you have parking areas and you need parking areas. So that's all. I basically wanted to say that we're here, Friends of Tivoli, and we're going to be looking at it, and we want to advocate for as much green space as possible next to this preserve.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions from the board for Mr. O'Grady? Sorry. Thank you. Okay. All right. Any questions from the board on the project? I do, so.
Go for it.
I think I need you back. Can you go back to the slide with the red and blue routes? Yeah. Where do kids normally drop off by the bus and or their parents? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Alana Moran with Lansing Engineering. We helped with the traffic evaluation for this particular expansion for the school. So right now what's going on is that on Northern Boulevard and on North Manning, there's an unsignalized access right there. So parents are primarily parked along Northern Boulevard, or they're going up and down Manning. So they're kind of, I'm going to say, all over the place. One of the benefits of this circulation pattern, the buses are still going to do what they do. This is what they do. They come in on North Manning, they circle around, and then they come back out. But right now, there is, as had been mentioned, like a really tight curb cut there. So they're going to widen it out so that we can have buses entering and exiting. Excuse me, sorry. The harder part, though, is getting parent circulation, and that's actually the primary benefit of this plan. It's not necessarily the parking so much as the circulation for the parents, so we can separate them away from the buses, particularly because there's going to be a traffic signal at that intersection. So there's not going to be the space that there is right now at North Manning and Northern as part of a city project. So that traffic signal is going in, which means there's not going to be the parking right adjacent there anymore. Right now, parents are doing 3-point turns, U-turns in Northern Boulevard in order to kind of get in and out of the school traffic. So with this circulation pattern, we're going to bring the parents in off of Northern Boulevard and in and have them in a safe space before circulating back out, so we don't have anybody on Northern Boulevard anymore.
So they're not entering through the main door in the back currently? Are they entering all
They're
of
not.
those?
They're not. They're entering, mostly the drop-off students enter on the access from Northern Boulevard or on Manning.
Okay, that's it for me. I was just trying to make sure that we weren't having the buses running kids over when they get out of the car.
No. This is a much better situation.
How many buses are there?
It ranges from, say, 9 to 15-ish at the times that they're there. So during afternoon pickup, you will have about 9 buses that stage from the front of the school, like immediately adjacent to the school. They'll line up, then they're lining up on the horizontal, and then they extend again onto North Manning. So that's why we want to get the parents off of North Manning and into this back parking lot, because there's not enough space on North Manning for a bus to stage and for vehicles to go northbound and southbound. There's just not space for it.
These are middle schoolers, right?
These are middle schoolers, yes.
I got a middle schooler. I don't know if I trust them across the street.
Mine crosses.
Yeah. All right.
I just have a quick question. What kind of determines the size of the parking lot? Because it looks like it's much bigger than what's necessary for the circulation for, the parents.
So it really is a combination of the need for the circulation. And then as had been mentioned, we're going to be banking quite a few spaces that are shown right now. They're not shown as green, they're shown as actual parking spaces as opposed to banked spaces, specifically the ones that are at the left-hand side. But we do need to have the space for, if a need be, that a bus can then come and circulate through the parking lot in the back in order to exit, which is why we're gonna have that full aisle on the far left-hand side. So yeah, I'm with you on the necessarily the number of spaces. It's really being able to circulate and get the buses around it, as well as getting the passenger vehicles, the parents around it, while separating out the parking for the Tivoli, because that was an important piece as well, was using that fence delineation to keep those spaces away.
And where are those spaces going to be?
Those are the ones that are closest to the sidewalk and the multi-use path on the
Oh, to the
right-hand
right.
side, yes.
Oh, on the left.
Nope.
Those are banked.
If you go, do you see the box right there?
Oh, so
Yep,
parking
those right-
circulation?
Those
Oh,
right there.
cars.
Yep, those are
Those are the Tivoli
the
spaces right
Tivoli
there.
spaces.
And but is that where,
So they're saying the bus can go all the way to the end and up through the center aisle?
the cars?
So the cars are gonna take that blue loop, right? So we'll drop them off, loop around and exit out. There's gonna be a typical passenger car during arrival and drop off and pickup. And then the buses, most of the time, are gonna stay up in that top parking lot.
Part that to me maybe is gonna get developed a little further is like where you anticipate parent drop off. So the kid gets dropped off there and then they walk through 2 layers of bus traffic.
So, yes, there are buses entering and exiting at that time, right?
Yeah,
So the
right.
other part about this is making sure that there's a management plan within the parking lot itself for the schools, which they do an excellent job of. I don't know if you've been out there, probably not, but with the high school currently under construction, the staff at KIPP has been fantastic about making sure they're getting everybody circulating the way they need to for the buses and the students, and that's in a construction zone. So down here, what it's going to be is really a crosswalk and a member of the staff being there to say, kids, wait a second, the bus needs to go through, and then giving them the opportunity as soon as the bus passes through to enter into the site.
So there is a crosswalk there?
It's not shown, but it's basically where that red arrow is right now. That's where a crosswalk would be, to get you direct across into the sidewalk.
And what happens when let's say I'm going to the Tivoli Preserve at 7:55?
I wouldn't go if I
And
were
I
you.
park, but what if I do?
I mean, you certainly can, because those spaces are available for you. Come on in, park, go for it. But most folks
Will not.
tend to avoid the schools during that half-hour arrival and dismissal period. It's just because it happens.
Oh, are there any electrified parking spots?
There are none proposed at this time. No.
Not even with the city of Albany? Spots?
No.
Oh. Why not? Why?
Actually, that was not really a topic that has come up in the previous meeting with the city.
Because they're doing it everywhere else, right?
I'm not entirely sure, but I know from site visits myself, there's another parking lot for Tivoli as well. Anna or Jesselyn, you may know better than I would if there's anything there, but it could be, because I know that one's all city.
can look into it.
Yeah, that would be-
But
Because it, like all the other public places, they're trying to put in.
I think there's no requirement for it yet within
Yeah.
the city, so we can't.
Any additional questions from the board? Staff?
There's a lot.
So as Walt mentioned, the property previously had a single-story residential building on it, but is now predominantly overgrown with vegetation. The property is still currently owned by the state of New York, with a condition of sale from New York to KIP, which you can read in the staff memo or which is typed up there. I won't bore you through that. There's specific language for the use of the property included in the sale. And then there's a separate MOU between KIP and the city of Albany, which was referenced by Walt, which is part of that engagement between the city and KIP for those improvements to the Tivoli Preserve and part of that banked parking or specific parking for the Tivoli Preserve. The project was referred for departmental comment a couple weeks ago and was referred, or will be referred for Albany County Planning Board for the February meeting. Again, it's owned by the state of New York, so it's required by 259M referral. Project is classified as an unlisted action based on the project scope, but it's not required to have coordinator review. As far as code compliance, it requires a lot consolidation, as the surface parking lot is not a permitted use as a primary use in the MUNE, but is permitted as an accessory use to the existing primary KIP middle school. So we're expecting a lot modification to be submitted to combine 321 Northern with the existing 596 Manning. As no new principal or accessory structure is proposed, the dimensional standards don't necessarily apply. And it does not exceed the maximum impervious surface coverage allowance for the MUNE. On the previous kind of initial site plan, a sidewalk was proposed, I think with separate kind of city conversations. There may be different conversation about that being more of a multimodal, but that's kind of a separate conversation, separate from the USDO code compliance side, so we'll just kind of leave that for now. The right-of-way access width requirements, there's been discussion obviously within the board to be kind of specific to buses, so the maximum width was exceeded by 4 feet, but there are exceptions for multi-axle vehicles, which I think could be considered, but that is definitely the traffic engineering department. Street amenities are currently not provided. That includes, the free benches or bike racks, those kinds of things. So either the site plan could be amended or additional waiver could be requested. As what went through, a off-street parking exceeds the maximum permitted, so waiver was submitted for that, and would be part of the ultimate CPR approval. Is part of the staff memo, we did kind of request consideration for potentially use of pervious or semi-pervious surface where possible, due to the location adjacent to the Tivoli Preserve and Tree Creek, and reference that specific code section in the USDO. Off-street parking spaces don't meet the dimensional standards by like 1.5 feet or 2 feet. That's again a very minor adjustment, which can be requested as a minor waiver. Not nearly as kind of a significant. I feel like waiver is one term, but there's kind of almost different levels. It's more of almost an administrative adjustment. And then we're requesting a landscape sheet just to see some additional details of the in-lot plantings that are proposed. So currently there's no action proposed. It would just be to table or defer.
Can I just one more question about the buses? So does, my kids go to public school in the city of Albany and they use Tripper CDTA buses. Is it the yellow school buses that come in or is it CDTA?
It's the yellow
The
buses,
yellow.
but they come in from districts all
All
over.
over, so that's why they're.
Yeah, so
Got
that's why it's not a city system.
Got it.
Any additional questions? Alrighty. Is there a motion to table?
Sure.
You don't have to. So moved. Is there a second? I'll second. Motion to table to a future meeting. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Look forward to seeing you in the very near future.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, exactly.
Next up is development plan review for 126 State Street. So Hirschberg, mixed-use downtown, construction of a 57,499 square feet expansion of the existing 126 State Street building and a portion of the adjacent parking lot at 120 State Street, including the addition of a loading dock. The proposed expansion will be connected via a new enclosed 2,316 square foot pedestrian bridge to the existing Albany Capitol Center building located at 55 Eagle. Proposal involves incidental partial demolition to the rear of the existing 126 State Street building. We're looking for a secret determination for this one. Mr. Hirschberg.
Thank you,
floor is
Mr.
yours.
Chairman. Daniel Hertzberg with Hertzberg. With me are two members of the design team, Brandon Stabler and Matt Tyler. We've been working regularly and diligently to get this project together. It's a major project. We understand that there are a lot of moving parts here, but I'll go through it as quickly as I can. The site location is fairly apparent to everybody. It's right at the corner of Lodge and Howard and goes up Lodge Street and includes the rear of 126 State Street. And we're all in the MU downtown zone. Existing addition plan shows asphalt parking lots on both sides of the building. And 120 State Street is a small building up on a corner of Lodge and State, and 126 State is the building next door. The next plan shows this is a building rendering. This is looking at on the left-hand side of that, you see the new bridge across Howard Street. And over to the right-hand side of that is Lodge Street going out towards State. The next rendering shows, I'm going down. This looks at the courtyard area looking in from State Street. And that's a courtyard that it's now a vacant parking lot. It will become a nice. What's that?
It's the one with the little door, okay.
Yeah. And next is building rendering. This is the view from State Street. That building on the left is 126 State Street. The facade stays pretty much the same. It does stay the same. And to the right of that is the courtyard, which was shown on the larger rendering previously. That's what it looks. This is looking from across State Street at it. You can see the courtyard and the building at the rear. Next, we have, this is a site plan. What this shows is the courtyard area is up in front on State Street. Then there's a building, and we also have a loading area. We have parking on the ground floor of Lodge and Howard. And we have a utility plan. It's a fairly complicated utility plan because you have a whole bunch of sewer connections and water connections to make. And we're doing a significant amount of stormwater management on the site. I don't know whether the next plan actually shows that, but the utility plan shows it pretty much. All of the new roof areas that we're building, we built as blue roofs, which means stormwater is held on the top of them after every storm. The average depth of water on a roof would be held to 5 inches. And that's enough to hold most of the major storms. And in addition to that, we have a relatively large storage chamber in the middle of that driveway going out towards Howard Street, which will have additional storage for the stormwater. So that the impact on the combined sewer system will be very positive. We're taking an awful lot of drainage away from it. We're adding in some additional sewage, but the quantity of sewage is insignificant compared to the amount of water that comes down during a rainstorm. Next, this is the courtyard landscape plan. It's still under development. This is our latest version of it. We might change a little bit, but that's pretty much where it sits now. We think it's a nice landscape plan. Mary Moore Wallinger did it, and it comes out, she did a very nice job on it. Next is site photos, and this pretty much shows, the one on the left shows what it looks like now, and with the vacant parking lot in there, which is now taken up by the courtyard. And this is the view from Howard Street. You're looking at the back of 120 State Street there in a parking lot from it. Next one shows the photo from, this is from the adjacent parking garage looking across at, that's the side of 126 State Street and the parking lot next to it. Next, we have, these are some building elevations. Looking in from Howard Street on the right, that's the Howard Street elevation you see. And the Lodge Street is, you're looking at really the end of the building there. That's what you look in from Lodge Street at the new building. Next is a building section. This shows how the building fits together. We have multiple story addition going on Howard Street. And that's where most of the action is. That's where most of our 56,000 square feet of new structure is. That allows for meeting space for a whole bunch of events to take place, small or large. There's kitchen space in there for preparation of food. There's it's good relief of overcrowding that takes place at the ACCA. They have multiple events that they can't run because they get requests for because there aren't variable spaces to put people in. This provides the variation of space and size that's really needed to make it good. Next is the building out, that's the south elevation, and that's the State Street elevation. That looks across the courtyard. The one on the left, that's the building that backs back of the courtyard. And this is the south elevation, which it looks in at the side of the building from the south. Next. There's a ground level floor plan. And that shows parking. And we have the main level plan, which has event space and areas where people would get together and some of the spaces needed to have the functions run. The next level is the upper level plan, which has the larger event space with kitchen space, and it's a very needed facility. We think it's a great addition to the city. It will require some significant construction over a significant period of time. We're working with Bill Trudeau. He already requested that we get a maintenance protection and traffic plan with phases on it as different things go on. Will have to be changed. We intend to use that courtyard area as a staging area because it's vacant space that we'll own the building on. So we'll put materials in there and have employees housed there during the construction, and it'll be used for during construction until we get to the end at which the courtyard will be built, and then it'll back out of there and leave it alone. So if there are other issues regarding maintenance and traffic, we have to build a bridge across Howard Street. We have to put utility connections into Howard Street, into Lodge Street. So it'll be a very busy site, we hope, for a significant period of time, but I don't know, the projection is 18 months. Yeah. So
for construction?
Yeah. So when we get moving, 18 months later, you'll be able to have events there. But again, it may seem, it's a complicated plan. There's everything going on there at different levels. The 18 months is really a progressively quick plan. They're working very diligently to have it down to 18 months. Because if you take a look at a project like that, you normally think 2 or 3 years to get the project 100% complete. But 18 months is BBL's projection, and we think we can do it. I think there might be a last one.
Is State Street up?
It's to the left.
So that's, okay, sorry.
At the bottom of the screen to the left is where the courtyard is.
Got it.
Then you got 126 State there, and I don't know, 120 doesn't show up on this plan.
Where does the footbridge fit in?
Yeah.
What's that?
How does the footbridge fit
Back
into
to
the
this
first level plan?
Here it is.
The floor plan on the first level. One of the colored plans that.
Yeah, that shows the rendering of it. That comes off the corner of the new building that's being built behind 120 State Street and comes up 126 State Street. And it comes diagonally across Howard Street and joins into a point on the existing center.
So
Go
if you
up
go to
one
slide
level.
16.
There it is.
The
right
main
there.
level.
So that shows it's at a slight angle because we want to hit the right point on the existing center, and consequently it'll cross Howard Street at a slight angle. We're working with the fire department, make sure we have adequate clearance for the fire trucks underneath it. And we've done this before. We did one for when the Burlington garage was built. We put one across there, so we're good at building bridges. Hopefully it'll last. My first job when I got out of college, I worked 9 months designing bridges for a company down in Montclair, New Jersey. And I designed all overpasses in Syracuse on I-80. So if you drive on I-80 over Syracuse.
Aren't they dropping now?
Yeah, well, they're all coming down.
They're all coming down.
Yeah. All the bridges I designed, I designed 63 years ago are now coming down.
I know.
What's the last use of 126?
There were some commercial tenants in the building. I'm not sure exactly when they all left, but there were some offices in the front, so there's a 6-story tower. And then there was some telecommunications leases in the basement, I know.
So will the part that's the existing building will be merged to become part of the Capitol Center's sort of tapestry of buildings that can be used?
Yes, you mean the front of 126 State Street, the existing building?
Correct.
Yes, the whole facility, the addition and the existing building will all function as kind of an extension of the Capitol Center and give them a presence out on State Street and obviously provide the courtyard, some green space that they don't have now. But so the existing tower on the first floor, when you walk in, probably the most recognizable thing in recent history to most people, I think, is when Angela's Bridal was there. There's a beautiful historic lobby in there that was originally built for the municipal gas company, but and then there was a bank lobby with tellers. So that'll stay as kind of a small function or pre-function space. And then floors 2 through 6 above, there's one floor that has a really nice boardroom, historic with fireplace in it, and the rest of them will be so for a small meeting in that boardroom maybe. And then the Capitol Center, the Convention Center Authority's offices, administrative offices will be in that existing tower.
So then in that tower, you connected to the smaller building in the space next to it.
Yeah, the one that the smaller new construction that's kind of recessed. Yeah, that's going to be part of 126 State Street. It'll all be connected. That'll kind of be like the main entrance, like walk through the courtyard. You can come in off the street, but it's not an accessible entrance off the street. We are proposing to put an accessible entrance just on the side of the building. You can kind of see on the side of 126 State Street, there's a little.
When you walk in that courtyard, that little dark door on the left-hand side here is handicap access into into 126 State
Right.
off that courtyard side.
It would be very difficult to make the actual front facade of 126 State accessible. And because it's a beautiful facade, we wanted to preserve the historic, character of the building and not try to modify that, with the slope on State Street, et cetera. But that little addition that in the middle of the courtyard there that's kind of recessed will serve as like the main circulation tower for the facility. So there's a couple of elevators in there and a lot of glass in the stair tower to kind of open things up and bring in some natural light.
The footbridge, pedestrian bridge is from the smaller piece of this, right?
It's actually from the two-story addition that's being constructed on the back. That'll go across to the existing Capitol Center. And, that was actually an important piece for the Convention Center Authority because where it connects in the existing building is the existing meeting room level. So at the bottom of the escalator, if you've been there for, big events, at the bottom of that escalator where the pre-function and meeting space is, that bridge is going to be at the same elevation. So you can be in there at a meeting. What's that?
Right at the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly what you're talking.
You walk right
Now
to the bathroom.
here's the real question. I was getting to it. Leaving the Hilton. It's cold as hell outside. Can I walk through this building to get? Can I walk through on State Street? Will I be able to walk in on State Street and get to all that other stuff? I can get to the Wellington. I can get to the Egg. Can I move without going back outside again?
That's a good question, an operational question that I think we can bring somebody from the Capitol Center in maybe next meeting to talk about.
If I can't do that, we throw this whole thing away.
It's just denied, right?
Just denied.
I think the answer is probably going to be at times, depends on what time of day.
Winter time.
That's okay. Touche.
Okay. Good.
This is a first.
Informed.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're not voting on this one tonight.
No, it's just a first.
You can if you want.
No, we can't, because you don't want us to vote tonight.
No, but actually, in all seriousness, because of the fact that I know we're pressed on time, but because of the fact that we missed the January meeting, and we are, as Dan said, 18 months of construction, there is a timing aspect to the Convention Center Authority wanting to have this done. If there are any other comments from the board, even if it's just not fully vetted, if you want to throw them at us, we'd love to hear whatever you have to say so that we can kind of go back and get to work in the meantime. I know we're just asking for lead agency determination tonight.
Yep. No comments from public. Staff?
I think we went through the beginning portion. It doesn't have this 126 State Street and a portion of the rear of 120 State Street, so there, proposal does include a lot modification. That application has been submitted and will be reviewed, administratively separately. The project is located in the historic resource and the archaeological resource overlay, which requires a certificate of appropriateness, which is being reviewed by the HRC, so they were at the board of commission in January. The project does include demolition, but doesn't meet the threshold of demolition review, according to our USDO. The project was referred for departmental comments at the end of January, and we did receive some of those comments back. And Dan already addressed some of them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So we're making headway on those. The project was referred to the Albany County Planning Board in the beginning of January and received recommendations back in a month. And they recommended that it be referred to SHPO, which it has been and will be. So we can proceed to the next slide. Because it is in the historic district, the project meets the 25% threshold to be classified as a type 1 action under seeker, and because it's HRC, and again, SHPO, we recommend the planning board, the agency, initiate coordinator review, do the multiple review boards. Under the code compliance, A conditional use permit will need to be provided. The actual use is a little bit odd, just based on our definitions. It falls under the category of indoor recreation or entertainment, which if the use exceeds 15,000 square feet does require a conditional use permit. So we expect that for the next meeting, and then the project will have its actual public hearing. The dimensional standards and maximum pervious lot coverage have been met. The second floor bridge across Howard Street will require an easement agreement with the city prior to issuance of building permit. So I think we've kind of started some of those talks, but obviously that will progress. There's an existing sidewalk, which I think there maybe were some comments from the department or DPS on, but
I think all existing sidewalks meet the existing requirements for city sidewalks.
Yeah. Cross connection access easement to 128th Street parking may be needed, depending on if their only access is through the curb cut from what will be only 126th Street. And then, like we said, the lot consolidation will be needed. Off-street parking is not required in any DT district, but will be partially maintained with the proposal. There are existing street trees on State Street, and if there's any exterior trash storage that should be identified on the site plan. Mechanical equipment likely will be interior, but that should just be noted as well in the revisions. Lodge Street and Howard Street elevations, I think should be more clearly needed to show the pedestrian access. I think that was also a conversation with HRC, just looking at the elevations, but I think also we've had some revised elevations since that was previously provided. It's confirming if there are any exterior lighting proposed for the courtyard or entrances. There's some minor changes within the parking based on the kind of stair columns or to the rear parking on 126th Street. And then if any additional signage is proposed, all signage requires a separate sign permit review. And then as mentioned, the action is to declare planning board to act as the agency under secure coordination review.
How integrated is that public space, courtyard space, into the city of Albany events? Like, are there ways that people could utilize that public space?
You mean like if somebody from the general public wanted to have some sort of an event there, or if you're just walking down State Street? And
Vice versa, all those options.
Yeah, I think we'll bring members of the Convention Center Authority with us to the next meeting to talk operationally, but I think there could be times where there is an event happening that includes the outdoor space, but other than that, I believe the intent is to kind of have it open. Yeah.
I say like in lunch situations, for instance, can someone go sit?
Eat a sandwich.
Yeah,
we'll bring them and have them answer that question.
How many parking spaces are going to be included in the project?
There will be 30 parking spaces for passenger vehicles and then 2 spaces for loading docks for vehicles. Those passenger vehicle spaces are actually associated with 126th Street. The New York State Troopers PBA occupies that building. And so basically part of the agreement was to consolidate a portion of their parking lot into the 126 lot. And then we build this project over it, and then they continue to use their parking now just covered. So they'll still be using that. Yeah.
Okay. And then yours is behind 126.
Well, there's at the existing Capitol Center, you mean? Yeah. So there's parking at the existing Capitol Center, and the Capitol Center has parking arrangements with OGS and with the MVP arena and the garage, as well as some other places. And then there's, of course, right next to this is the 67 Howard Street parking garage that's open to the public.
Okay.
I walk down that street every day.
Howard?
No, State.
Oh.
And there's a lot of construction going on that street, and often it's just the sidewalk barricades are not properly put in, like you have to actually go into the street when buses are coming to walk because of all the staging.
Right.
And just really curious, when you get to that point, like how pedestrian friendly is your goal of 18 months in terms
Yeah.
of integrating
Bill
with the
Trudeau
bus
made it
stop?
clear to us that we had to do a good job of pedestrian control for our streets so people get by. And he pointed it out, so we are working diligently to get a maintenance and protection traffic plan that has all that covered.
And just ice maintenance, like walking down that street. There's a lot of people who don't shovel.
Oh, yeah, and it's steep.
It's really steep. And those metal grates are even slicker.
Yeah. for
Right,
the-
so you
for the
like-
Electric bolts.
Yes,
That's what you
you
have when
literally
you have a
slip
12% grade on your main street. in the
on your
city of
main
Albany.
street, right? So like in terms of just staging and considering public use, I think it'd be a really great opportunity to integrate the public into some of those spaces where they have openings.
Right.
Right.
And to address your concern about walking down State Street, I guess the one fortunate aspect of this project is there's not really a lot of construction going on the State Street side of the building. It's all more in the back.
I think there
So-
was some further down. Like,
Yeah, between there and 90 State Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nothing, you have to walk into the road to get through it.
Right. No, I just meant
Yeah.
for this project.
For this project,
Yeah.
it's from the back, you have to.
Right.
Let's see. What street is this?
That's
Wendell?
Wendell.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, Ken is the architect, he took a little bit of creative license. So Wendell is very steep, and there's a little parking garage right on the corner.
The angle, yeah.
Yeah, we wanted you to be able to see the building, and you couldn't really do that.
So
with
take
the-
everything outside of the
We
way.
see this all the time.
We live there, so like,
We were like, what is
where is
this?
Yeah,
this,
that's
is the
the county.
comptroller's building?
That's the county
County
office
building?
building, and then next
The
to it is the
comptroller's
comptroller.
building there?
Yes, sir.
I'm a
And
So
surveyor.
it's somewhere
I'm a
near
surveyor.
Lodge Street?
Lodge Street's right in there.
I'm a surveyor. When I saw this, I said, what am I looking at? Because it did
So
not
did
look
I.
like what I reckoned.
Okay. All good. So we have
Maybe a
a
realistic rendering.
secret
The site.
determination that we need to get through. Let's, is there a motion from the board to declare the planning board to act as lead agency on the secret for coordinated review? I'll move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Has been moved and seconded to declare the planning board to act as lead agency under seeker for coordinated review. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Look forward to seeing more about this project.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Chris, I'm gonna take.
All right, we're gonna take a recess for 5 minutes for buyout, and our last project today will be 20 Center Street. Okay.
so much tea here today.
At 20 Center Street. They're proposing to construct 2 new buildings on the existing lot for flex warehouse rental space. Basically, what that entails are overhead doors with an office, bathroom, that type of space for maybe a small landscaper that has a pickup truck or a skid steer or something that they want to keep inside, or a painter, electrical contractors, things like that. These small construction type contractors that don't need a full warehouse space, but would like a space that they can call their own to work off of, that they can get their mail delivered, make their phone calls, go at the end of the day, clean up their vehicle, clean it, take care of all their equipment and stuff. So we're looking at developing 2 structures, one 9,000 square feet and one 3,750 square feet. And I apologize for the resolution on these. This is my first time in a while being at this board. I would have changed what I did looking at the previous ones. But the parcel is bordered by Center Street on the north, Champlain Street on the east, and South Street on the south side. There's an existing warehouse / office space on the northern side of the parcel that would be subdivided off, and that is referenced as Lot 2. There's existing parking along Center Street and existing parking to the west side of the building, as well as a large existing parking and yard area along Champlain Street. It's proposed to create Lot 1 on the south side of the parcel with access only on Champlain Street, keeping it away from the some of the residential uses along South Street. Thank you, Anna, or whoever's doing this. I appreciate that. That's a much better resolution. Thank you. Yes, so along South Street with access only, again, on Champlain Street. There'll be a small parking lot between the 2 buildings for 13 parking spaces, which meets the bulk standard code. The parking lot will be screened to prevent any headlight interference with again, the properties across South Street. A small trash dumpster location will be located near the rear of the smaller building. That will be screened. I know in the comments, there's still some engineering comments and staff comments that we'll be going through and addressing that we recently received. But will be on the west side of the site there will be the trash location. There'll be the closure of a good portion of the existing curb cut along South Street to make more defined curb cuts. Right now, that whole area along South Street is kind of one big curb cut. So there'll be infill of new sidewalk in those locations and the creation of a more functional entrance and exit onto the site. There will be, the entire site will be fenced as it is now with chain link fence. The Lot 2, the existing building, the existing yard would be, there'll be a rolling gate servicing that, and a rolling gate servicing the new development as well. One thing I should note, under the existing condition, almost all of this site is impervious, either concrete, crushed stone, or asphalt, basically right up property lines to property lines. So there'll be, we won't be increasing the impervious area, and be looking to maybe augment with some little bit of green space in there behind and around some of the buildings to provide some stormwater management and some infiltration into the ground and lowering that runoff curve number. If you look at the elevations for the proposed building, I don't know if those came in any better. Yeah, there we go. So this is the concept that we're proposing. The building to the left is obviously the larger 9,000 square foot building. As you see, with overhead doors for each one of the uses, varying roof lines to give you, some breaking it up a little bit so that it's not just one flat roof, and a man door for access into the facility. Again, targeting small contractors who really need that overhead door space, or somebody who just wants to be able to pull their car right next to their office. Again, small flex warehouse office space. You can see the front and rear of the proposed structures. Dan Sanders from Sanders Architectures here as well. You can speak to the architecture. This is what we're looking at doing. And the proposed development, again, 10 individual flex commercial warehouse spaces, secure garage space, small office space for the future tenants. These is typically leased by contractors, plumbers, electricians, etc. And we're anticipating approximately 6 months to complete both buildings.
Interesting.
Can the space be divided or combined on the inside?
Yes.
Or-
Each of the spaces is about 1,500 square feet. So you can combine them to 3,000 in a module.
Right. So what all do they share on the inside?
Each of the spaces has their own office and their own bathroom, handicapped bathroom and mechanical space, which would have a water heater and possibly like a service sink in there.
So it's like we work for the industrial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good way to put it. Cool moves down. Trucks. Yeah.
I got it.
I've never heard of space like this before. Is there a pretty good demand?
It's actually becoming a rising demand. There's a lot of it going up around our Castle Road area. There's been a lot of it. I have 3 projects right now which are proposing this type of use. I think having that garage space, unfortunately, we're living in a society where, maybe contractors don't want to leave their work vehicles outside. They have a lot of valuable equipment, a lot of valuable tools, and those work. I know, yards are getting rated for copper and things like that. Where they have that interior space that they can utilize.
So you all are saying you got a lot of security?
Not a lot of security, but just having that interior space rather than being in an open parking lot outside an office or facility.
It's gated.
It is gated. There will be a 6-foot fence around the facility.
This was previously approved as one large building, and we pivoted because this is a much more in-demand use.
Very nice. Any questions from the board outside of our general curiosity?
That's right. No, I'm good.
I think on the technical side of it, the experts seem pretty straightforward, so I appreciate it. Staff notes, last one, let's make it happen.
I just have one question. How do you, if the contractor's idling in there, how do you exhaust the air out?
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate that it would be idling inside it. It's really just a
They're not
garage
doing
space.
mechanical work or anything
not.
like that. No, it's not a maintenance garage.
It's just a storage.
It's just for storage or just like any garage space?
Any garage.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that was mentioned, that in any agreement you would have with the tenant. That would be.
Yeah.
As Brett mentioned, the proposal includes lot subdivision, and lot application has been submitted and was reviewed separately administratively. The project was referred for departmental comment at the end of January, and we got some of his comments back. It was referred for Albany County Planning Board in January, and it was, received a comment back that was deferred to local consideration with the advisory note, which is different than a recommendation advisory note. For a shared access agreement between the two properties to include a maintenance agreement, devise the representatives for both properties due to potential internal access between the lots and to ensure proper transfer of ownership in the future. So we've seen this in previous cases as well. Currently the properties are owned by the same owner, but in the future, if there was transfer of ownership, it may make sense to add a access agreement between the two parcels to maintain, if there was snow storage between the two. Project is classified as an unlisted action under seeker, and we recommend issuing a negative declaration. There's no additional coordination needed on that project. The storage and wholesale distribution is a permitted use in the I-1 district, and it has specific standards, some of which, are a little difficult without specific tenant identified. So in the future, as they're kind of doing build out or they're identifying, those may come up. They're kind of specific to even what's stored in the spaces, so that may come up when they pull building permits, if they're doing anything additional on the interior. The dimensional standards have been met. The sidewalk and right-of-way access width requirements have also been met. Street amenities, given the location, may not be appropriate or may not exactly meet the area. It is I-1, there is also residential, it's kind of a mix of uses. So we expect a waiver to be requested by Brett. I think that was the conversation we had previously. As mentioned, the lot modification was submitted, and the off-street parking has also been met along with the landscape buffer along South Street because there is existing residential that would immediately adjacent to it along that street. Again, the street trees, we expect the waiver to be submitted for that, which would come at the same time that the DPR would be, ultimately in front of the planning board. Those waivers would also be in front of the board. There's an existing 6-foot chain link fence along the kind of left side of the property where there are existing residential uses occupied for the USDO. So that does meet the requirement buffer. There's chain link and kind of existing landscape there as well. Trash storage was identified and has been identified and advised to include enclosure. Mechanical equipment seems to be either both ground and or roof mounted or interior, so it will just be identified on the provided site plan. Building and streetscape design is obviously more oriented towards the interior off-street parking due to the proposed use and anticipated kind of minimal pedestrian activity. So there is pretty limited facade transparency. Generally, we require 30% transparency. So the waiver may be needed depending on if any additional windows could be added to either South Street, that South Street facade. Confirm if any exterior lighting is proposed for that parking area, or if any signage is proposed for the site. Signage require a separate sign. So at this time, we would recommend issuing a negative declaration for unlisted action or seeker, and then just table or defer the TDR.
Before we do that, leave the gentleman.
Yeah, if you don't mind me, my
What's
name is
up?
Mark Wall.
Let's switch places.
Let's switch places.
Switch places. Let's make it formal. Our schedule is off. We're already at 8, almost 8:30. Want to give you a chance to speak your piece.
I'm tired. My name is Mark Wagner. Thank you for listening to me. I didn't sign up.
Address? Mark. You said Mark Webb?
Mark Wagner.
Wagner.
29 South Street.
29 South Street.
right? So resident just south of this proposed building. A lot of the staff comments answered some of my questions actually, which was like exterior lighting, parking lighting. Water runoff is a bit of a concern. I was wondering if they considered maybe porous pavement at all, you know, where the sewers, if there's any new sewers. I was a little disappointed to see the waiver on the trees for that area too, because there's no trees on South Street at all. So that would be a nice addition. I know it's a little bit more work to maintain these things, but there is some work being proposed on Broadway, which is just up the block. There's a NYSERDA Climate Act change for that to bring green space in, cool it down. So that could be part of this project too. And the other thing that you mentioned was the what would be stored in these warehouses, right? At one point, there was some chemicals before these gentlemen moved in, and I think they had to move out because of the residents that were nearby. So we have to keep in mind maybe what's being stored there. You know, if there's any flammables. I don't know what kind of fire protections being put in these, in case there is something there. There's a lot of residents on the south side of the street, so we have to take that into consideration. But they've been very good neighbors. There's no complaints. Just a neighbor. But I appreciate you guys letting me speak.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right. That being said, is there a motion to issue a negative declaration for an unlisted action on this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the negative deck, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. And the second motion, is there a motion to table the development plan review to future meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to table to a future meeting, development plan review. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned 8:24.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh. So without objection, without objection, is there anybody objecting to adjournment?
I object.
Meeting adjourned 8:24.
Thanks for listening.